let's go over a few athletic articles, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Anaheim Ducks, and money. Lots and lots of money. Because that's kind of what the entire league revolves around, doesn't it? But in this video, we're going over options as to what the Tampa Bay Lightning could do to potentially get themselves some more cap space, because right now, they're over the cap. We've noted this in a few videos before, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are pretty close up there. And at the time of this recording, they still need to re-sign Anthony Cirelli and Erik Cernak, two guys who were very, very good players, I would say, in the Stanley Cup victory for the Tampa Bay Lightning in this year's 2020 Stanley Cup Playoffs. The fact is, these guys are young. You want to see the best out of these guys in the long term, and Julien Brisebois has said it a ton himself. He wants to keep these players. So, let's go over first off the situation. This is an athletic article written and posted over here by Joe Smith earlier on November 25th. We're going over on NHLTradeRumors.me because they summarize the quotes. That's all we're looking for here, just the quotes on the subject, not anything else. But Julien Brisebois came out and said this about the future of his roster. Not keeping the RFAs, Sergachev, Cirelli, Cernak, was never something we would seriously consider. There's significant will on our end to make new deals happen. They're a big part as to why I look at this organization and its future with big promise. I know I have to move players to make that happen, and I'm confident I'll be able to move the players to create cap space. There's a lot of progress being made. We're working on a bunch of different fronts. There's a lot of balls up in the air. Nothing has been materialized yet. And that's true. This article was published on November 25th, the athletic article, that is, where the quote is from, not the NHLTradeRumors.me article that pulls the quote and talks about it here, but there indeed are some balls in the air. We've spoken a ton about some of these moves, potential weird sign-and-trade moves with the Red Wings and other potential cap moves like Seattle, waiting for them to get involved, other teams and other players that may be on the block as well, because the Tampa Bay Lightning have two very capable NHL athletes, and they're currently $2 million over the salary cap. Now, our next destination is Spectres Hockey, because Lyle Richardson goes over a few very interesting ideas. This is the Spectres Hockey article from November 27th, so yesterday's edition. He highlights firstly a Sportsnet article, where Rory Boylan comes over here, and he writes about Tyler Johnson. The Lightning put winger Tyler Johnson and his $5 million salary cap hit on waivers last month, but he went unclaimed. His no-trade clause gives him some say over where he could go, but there might not be a market for the 30-year-old winger with declining stats and a high cap hit for the next 4 years. And Tyler Johnson, man, this is our guy here for today in this video. They speak about Alex Killorn, as well as a few other players as well in this article, but if we go over to an athletic piece written by Eric Stevens that is also written about here in the Spectres Hockey article, let's go over that Tyler Johnson here now, shall we? Stevens was asked about the idea of Tyler Johnson being a legitimate trade target for the Anaheim Ducks. While acknowledging that Johnson has had a solid NHL career, he wonders how well the 30-year-old will perform away from a deep roster like the Tampa Bay Lightning. Given the Ducks' own salary cap constraints, the Bolts would have to absorb half of Johnson's cap hit, while the Ducks made a separate cost-cutting move to balance out the $2.5 million. That is indeed true. The Ducks have not that much money remaining. In fact, they're over the cap as well. It's kind of funny how a rebuilding team like Anaheim is there, but the bottom line is they're there. So, going over with the article, Stevens also suggested moving Ryan Kesler's contract and perhaps another cap-related asset for Johnson if the center stays on long-term injury reserve during 2020-2021. However, the Ducks GM Bob Murray could prefer retaining Kesler's contract for his own LTIR purposes. Let's go over onto Ryan Kesler, a player whom I'm very familiar with. I was at Boston Pizza earlier last week, and they were playing a full-on replay of Vancouver Canucks 2011 playoffs glory highlights. And actually, no, it wasn't even the highlights. It was like a full game, yeah. We were watching San Jose Game 5. That's exactly what was going on over there. And Ryan Kesler, absolute beast. I remember watching all those playoff games back when it happened. Ryan Kesler will always have a big part in my heart because of what he did for the Canucks. But he indeed is a player who is being paid $6.875 million a year on the AAV, which is huge. He is on that LTIR, but What you do with a player who is on the LTIR is you actually have a little bit of a benefit with that. Why would you want to get a player who would just be on the LTIR? Well, because you could technically spend a little bit more money if you have somebody who is indeed injured, who does take up a significant amount of your cap. Now, it's very complicated to explain the entire LTIR relief process, even on the cap-friendly page. LTIR is a very complicated aspect of the NHL's operations, and the vast majority of details are not specified in the CBA. But when a player is placed on the LTIR, their cap hit remains on the team's cap payroll, and it continues to count, as it always did. It also does not provide the club with additional cap space savings that can be banked for future use when the team operates above the salary cap. Instead, LTIR provides relief if the club's average club salary, or payroll, begins to exceed the upper limit. The amount of relief that the club receives is calculated on the day the player is placed on LTIR. There are 3 equations that are used to determine the LTIR relief. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of math, and it's not really the easiest to understand, so let's just leave it at the bare bones explanation. If you get Kesler, a guy who doesn't play but who has a good contract, you can save some money with that. So the idea here is Ryan Kesler for Tyler Johnson. A big contract for a big contract, although one of them is a big contract that you can put on your LTIR. There would have to be some salary cap retention going on over here, which does make this whole process complicated. And as noted by Stevens himself, who knows if Bob Murray would just say, no, I want to keep Kesler, I want to keep that salary cap relief for myself, rather than give it to you guys, who we know are already going to be a very good hockey team going into the long-term future with the players you already have, Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, Vasilevsky, etc. The list goes on and on and on. And besides, you guys are going to have to hold on to some of Johnson's salary instead. So what's the whole point of going after this? And that to me is a very good combating perspective to this entire idea. Because if you're taking a look at a Tyler Johnson trade, we already know that NHL teams don't want to take Tyler Johnson on for free. There's going to have to be a sweetener of some sort, whether it's a pick or a prospect being attached to a Tyler Johnson when he gets shipped out, or the idea of the Tampa Bay Lightning just retaining salary on Tyler Johnson, because at full price, Tyler Johnson isn't even touched by anybody for free. So there certainly is a combating perspective there. However, the incentive to make a move like this definitely does exist, because Ryan Kesler and his contract relief could be seen as very valuable depending on who you ask. It'd be really weird to see Ryan Kesler get shipped over to another team for the purpose of the salary and all that stuff working out. The last time we saw that I made a video about was Pavel Datsyuk. We made a video talking about how the Arizona Coyotes are kind of a very good team to the Detroit Red Wings because of that Datsyuk trade. The Red Wings got some very good pieces back, so who knows if there's a kind of move where the Anaheim Ducks are able to squeeze out the very last remnants of what would be a nice return from the Tampa Bay Lightning if a Ryan Kesler is included. Also, for Tyler Johnson specifically, I do kind of wonder how exactly Tyler Johnson could do if he plays for a team like Anaheim, where he would be one of the top dogs. If you go over to his recent point production over the past few seasons in the NHL with the Tampa Bay Lightning, Tyler Johnson has indeed been on that heavy decline. Take a look at the points. 45 points in 2017, 50 in 2018, 2019, 47, and in the most recent season saw him get 31 in 65 games. Let's do the math on that. 31 divided by 65 multiplied by 82. That is a 39-point pace. A decrease in what was there before. You could say what you want about, line combinations, etc. Last year, Tyler Johnson was playing with Point and Kucherov. This year, he was playing with Barclay Goodrow and Yanni Gourde towards the end, and Mitchell Stevens and Carter Verhaeghe. That's a huge downgrade from Kucherov and Point and the guys he was playing with before, like Andre Palat as well, sometimes with Cirelli and Stamkos. So there certainly was a little bit of a different dynamic with Tyler Johnson when he was playing with other players. But the countering argument to that is, okay, if you're playing in Anaheim where you're not playing with Kucherov or Point or, really good elite franchise-altering players, what's going to happen to Tyler Johnson? Even if he gets first-line minutes, how is he going to play? The decline in production has been real, and that could be partly because of the fact that he's playing with worse teammates as his time in Tampa Bay goes on, but what's going to happen when he goes over to a new team and he has teammates that are even worse? The questions do certainly open themselves up, but I want you to talk to me in the comments about this whole idea of Ryan Kesler and Tyler Johnson being swapped for the purpose of one team getting the cap relief and the other team getting some assets back. It certainly is an interesting idea to me, which is why I made a video about it here, but talk to me in the comments if you think I've enjoyed this video. Trolls 99, and Bye.